It's happening.
We are Brightside Home Theater.
Hey, home theater nerds, welcome to the Brightside Home Theater Podcast. The home theater podcast, it's all about the experiences, the sights,
the sounds,
the scenes.
Yeah. And we're going to open the show with Steve At's comment, 405 shows and still technical issues. You betcha. It's called technology. How long you had your home theater, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
Every time you sit down with your fingers crossed. Please turn on.
Especially when you've got a group of people around to watch something.
Oh my God. Yeah. John Brock had a great story about that when he first had his theater finished. And he had a bunch of people over and he's like, here we go. And it was like everything went haywire and he had like 12 people in the room. He's like, oh no. And his rack was downstairs. I believe his rack is like, you go out the door and down some stairs. He's like, you're like a killer workout trying to fix it. But yeah, man. But yeah, I put the thing in the chat, sat down here. I'm like, we're going to actually start on time. Right. And then I say, hey, Steve. And Steve's like, uh-oh, I'm hearing an echo from myself. And I'm like, that's me. And it's the Roadcaster. And then there's a bunch of audio inputs and you have to be on chat so it doesn't send your voice back through to you. And every time I go to choose that in this app, it wouldn't show up. So I had to keep backing out, trying. So, hey, technology, right? So that's how my last 5 minutes have been. How's your week been, Steve?
It's been okay. Yeah, it's been all right. I am back in more familiar surroundings.
Yeah.
Got back from Spain on Saturday afternoon. A much smoother flight back, thank goodness, than the one out. So that was okay. So yeah, now back in much more comfortable surroundings, which is good. Had a little bit more sleep, although back to work last couple of days and it's been busy. So yeah, I'm a bit more awake than last week, but not by much.
Yeah. You and me both.
But buddy. Overall good. Yeah, it's all good. And I haven't got a lot of home theater experiences this week, but the ones I've got are good ones. And one in particular is very unexpected.
Really?
Very good indeed. Oh, yes. Yeah. Now, it might be because this was, and we'll talk more about it later, but this was the first film I watched in Cinema George after having had 2 weeks away from Cinema George. So that might have something to do with it, but I don't know.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, that had something to do with it. I actually have one this week that I think is going to, might ruffle some feathers even. Like, an unexpected opinion from me on this one. So yeah, it should be good. No. No, there will be no trap 2. I'm not falling into that trap, Steve. Come on.
You remember that I mentioned that a friend of mine had seen it and it texted me and said, it was awful before you'd said it. That friend who I spoke to yesterday just brought it up again out of nowhere. We were chatting away and he just said, oh, by the way, trap. And spoiled a bit more of the film for me when he was telling me about it. Yeah, and he just hated it as well. And so I was telling him about what you'd said, and he's like, "Yeah, that too."
Yeah.
So
and then there's that. It's a list. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. We should probably say no John tonight. John is busy.
For the audio only people too that are just like, how come he's been so quiet? And yeah, John actually is very hopeful on the job search and let us know today. So good luck to him on that. As I said to him, I'm like, sorry to hear you can't make it, but glad to hear why, so good for him. Yeah. So hopefully everything works out there for him. But yeah,
we haven't banished him. He's banished himself.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And shall we say hi to everyone in the chat? It's
Sure.
again. So we've got Rach dropped in with a comment from X. Was first in actually by the looks of this. So
Rach.
fair play to
Yeah.
Rach right at the top.
Yeah.
Hi Rach.
Yeah, nice.
And AC3's in. Steve Att is in. Mikey's in. Getting some love for his. Was it more Takeover Wednesday? Or Takeover Thursday.
Yeah. It was a Takeover Thursday or whatever. Yeah.
Van Ghoul's dropping in. Yeah, lots of love for that in the chat. Marcus Beeb's in. I've seen a number of others. Who else has dropped in as well? I know Dom's in. Paul Hurt's in. Hi, Paul. And TSG Spartan's in once again. Local boy to me now. Now that I'm back. And Carl's in. Rich is in. And Mike and Ariel all in.
Nice.
So, good.
Yeah. And another comment from Steve in the chat. Mike, great Takeover Tuesday. DJ isn't going to let you go without a crack at 3 hours. Honestly, I don't even know what the time was on that one. I think it was like 3 hours or right thereabouts. But I got to tell you, it's like it flew by. I had no idea we went that long. I had no idea. It was like it flew right by, like it does with everybody when you do that stuff. And it's like even the time I think Todd still holds the record for the longest. It's like over 3.5 for one person. I mean, I have done 25. So, but yeah, it just flies by. Like you and I say every week, we're like, oh my God, 2 hours. Where did it go? Like you're looking at it right now and like we've been on for 6 minutes and 37, 38, 39 seconds. And then next thing you know, we'll be like, gotta go. It just flies by.
It does. But that's what's so cool about this stuff. We're excited about it. If you weren't enthusiastic about it, time would drag.
You're not here.
But quite. Time flies when you're having fun, they say. And this is the definition of this stuff. Because it's always fun. It's never a chore. So it's great. And as I said, and always cool when you've got interesting stuff to talk about. Like it or hate it. If you're interested in it, then it's all good. But I am intrigued, Deej. I really do want to know what this this ruffled feathers opinion's going to be.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I was like, oh no, did I not grab a picture of it? I was like, oh no. I was like, all right,
it's really controversial. You have to guess what it is.
Yeah, exactly. No.
And now you asked how I was. And obviously, we jumped on straight away. So how are you, buddy? How you doing?
Good. Lots, as always, lots going on, but keeping busy, having fun with things, trying to enjoy myself and have fun with things like this, for instance. Haven't done these in a while. That's the front of the house, and this just got that gable just got done. That front peak just got done yesterday, so they came by and threw that up yesterday. So now, like literally, the front of the house is done. It's like all of that, and I talked to the guy that's going to do the gutters today, so they're going to come out within the next week or so, 2 weeks, and do gutters. And me being picky the way I am, because it's like it's got to look right. And I have the paint, so if you look, like I'm going to have black gutters to go along here, so it'll blend in with that. But then the downspouts are going to actually match the house. And I'm like, if you can't find them, don't worry. I got the paint. And I know a guy that can do the paint. So.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, someone called Envision or something. I'd heard.
Yeah, something like that. And you can envision it, I'll do it. So there you go. So yeah.
No, it's looking great. Looking really good. Don't take that down so quick, DJ. I want more of a look.
Okay,
yeah, man, it's looking great. So that, man, that is awesome. Are the doors still to be stained then? Are you going to stain the
I still
the front door?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that yet. It's like, as you can see up here, I did a little bit more work just on the chimney up at the top there. So actually, let me see. I'll pull that down. I'll actually show you some chimney pictures from earlier. There you go. So there's one. So that's the chimney. That's the backside of the chimney. And I'm not doing the top part yet until I get the cover. It's in. I just have to go pick it up. But when I know that I might actually have to file down the top pieces just to make it fit, because just so that it's supposed to go over it, so the water goes around it, not behind it. So, but so that was done. I'm almost like literally, I was like, oh my God, I'm running out of stone here, but I'm a little bit less than halfway done with it. right? Because if I do the same thing on the other side, I'm going to meet in the middle on the both sides. And it's like, and that's all that's left. And I was like, I don't have enough corner pieces left. I was like, oh, I only got 2 corners left. You don't realize when you're doing it, but you're done. You're like, oh my God, it's like halfway done. So, yeah. And it's fun to do. It's like to be up there. The hardest part of all that though, is like, it's just the, being up on a roof.
Yes.
That's, bringing the stone up, picking the right ones, cutting them. And all the while you're working on a 12 pitch of just like, I almost fell a couple times because you go to cut and you're like, my sneakers are getting the sneakers I'm using for grip. They're getting a little flip. Oh, here we go. So it'll be fun to do like the fireplace on solid ground, like in my house, and be able to do all that and not have to worry about falling off a roof. So.
Yeah, and I suppose as winter starts to kind of roll around, you've got to worry about frost and ice and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful.
I won't be up there. I was like, I'm going to be, actually, once they're done with I got to trim the doors, stain the doors. Once that's done, everything on the outside is pretty much done. And now we're just doing inside stuff. And so that'll be, and I hope I'm done before winter, but at the same time, I don't care. When it gets done, it'll get done.
It gets done. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. And there's some. I think there's some freedom in that. There's some pressure release there, isn't there? It gets done when it gets done. I'm not working to a deadline and pressuring myself and all that stuff. It's that's the way to do it, surely. Otherwise, it just becomes a millstone around the neck, which you don't want.
And you end up miss deadlines. You're like, oh. No, and now you're disappointed. Just keep on plugging away and be happy with every step. And the next thing you know, you'll be like, oh, time to move in. I'll be in long before we move in. Because once I get, I'll be working there. So I'll be like, go to bed, get up, keep working, go to bed, get up, keep working. So, and hopefully that'll help it speed up. But
it's looking really good. Looking very, very cool. Yeah, it's definitely been some big jumps since last time we saw it. So, it's great. Very, very cool.
Yep. Yeah. So, so that's been, I'm trying to think what else this week. Oh, I went for allergy tests today. You want to see those pictures? Probably not.
An allergy test?
Yeah. I got allergy issues. Yeah. With foods and stuff. So I went for an allergy test. So,
okay. Well,
so
not always.
All the pricks all over my arms and all the little, it's not good.
Yeah, man.
It's not good. Right. Keep the comments to yourself on that one.
No comment. No comment on that one. My mind was racing.
I saw it's like,
my mind was whirling, and I thought,
there you go.
I won't do
Just
that.
take your mind off it. There you go. That's what it looked like. Both arms.
Ooh, each. So is that just little needles?
Little needles. Look at 60 of them. There they are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's all the different things, That's
all the different things. Almond, apple, banana, bean, string, wax, beef, everything. 60 different.
Allergic to apples?
You can be.
I've never heard of an apple allergy. Citrus allergy, that is it?
Yeah. And they did this, and I know I have some allergies to something because I've got these effects for it. But they did all of this, and I'm looking at them, and they're like, it's not showing anything. Didn't show anything. Whoops. What did I do there? Whoops, didn't mean that. But it didn't show anything, so I had to go for blood work. And
okay.
So now that they're going to do all the real testing. So
Steve Att says, better not be allergic to paint.
Yeah, I know that would be an issue. That would be
or bumpers.
Or bumpers. Yeah. All of a sudden I'd be like, well, it's either be broke or healthy. Pick one.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
Oh man. Well, hopefully that how long does it wait for the blood work to come back?
No idea. They're like, just go anywhere. So I went and got all the blood. The doctor's like, what do you think of it? Like, I've narrowed it down to like a dairy allergy. And he goes, okay, so we'll test for that. And he goes, what else do you think there is? And I'm like, I don't know. What do you think? And he starts to listen. So I go, all right, let's try that one. So I go there and the lady's like, she brings out all these vials. They had to fill 10 vials of blood. 10 different
very nearly an armful.
Yeah, there you go. And it was. And she's like, and she goes, I don't think we've done coconut yet. I'm like, yep, all right.
Like,
do them all. So we'll find something. So find out I'm allergic to something.
Yeah,
But
that's it. You're keeping a local vampire house very happy.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, not
Blade 4.
so yeah, that was my day today. So
Mm.
big fun. Sitting
Yeah.
around
Oh,
getting
man.
poked and prodded.
Yeah, not much
Keep it
fun.
to
Not much
yourself.
fun. Well, again, how you spend your free time is a matter for you. Tom doesn't want
Exactly.
to make any comment whatsoever. So, AC3 says dust mites are popular. Ooh, do
Yeah,
they
yeah, that one
cause
was up there.
allergies?
Yeah,
Mm.
that you can, yeah, dust mites, all sorts of things. It can be airborne allergens, food allergens, all sorts of things. So we'll
Oh,
see.
man.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll come back quick because it's kind of from what little I understand of the American healthcare system. Of course, over here we have the National Health Service, so
Hmm.
it's free at the point of delivery. We pay national insurance
Right.
taken from our wages to fund this, and so anyone that's a UK citizen, etc., gets free access to this. But it can mean sometimes you don't always get the quality perhaps or the
Right.
speed of other countries. So obviously where it's private in the US,
Yeah.
my experience of it, because I injured my foot while I was there in 98 for 3 months, and we had insurance to be there, and it was awesome. I mean, you went into the hospital and they were like, there was sort of someone waiting for you,
Right.
and all these kind of tests and these x-rays. It was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's not that quick. You can have long waits here.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys get access to more kind of cutting edge stuff, and they'll do more work, from what I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah, it depends. And again, because it's private, it's like depends on your level of insurance, how fast you get, you know what I mean? And there's
okay.
different. So we have decent insurance. My wife's a teacher, so
Okay.
we have decent insurance. It's not as good as it used to be, but
Mm.
but yeah, like I go, you can wait. You can go into the emergency room and you got a cut, like a really bad cut or something, and you'll be like, all right, take a seat. We'll get to you in a minute. And I found the trick accidentally, and it had to do with allergies too. I got stung probably like 10 years ago. I got stung on my forearm. And then the next morning I was working, and by like 12 o'clock, my arm had blown up like Popeye, like ridiculously huge. My forearm was huge. And I was still working. I was like, it's swollen. Who cares? My wife and kids were already up in Maine. So I was home alone working in the driveway on my friend's car. And when I finished with it, I was like, damn, my heart started to feel like I could feel the flutter. I felt dizzy.
Anaphylactic shock.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm feeling funny. So I drove to the emergency room. It was like, I walk
really
in.
quickly.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I go. I'm like, I walk in. I'm like, I'm just feeling really dizzy. And I'm like, look at my arm. And they're like, whoa, look at that arm. And like, any heart problems? I'm like, yeah. It's like I can feel it beating in my head. It's like, I swear, it felt like somebody came up behind me and scooped me with the wheelchair. And they're like, beep, 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 boom, right back to a room.
Yep.
No waiting when you say that. So now you're like, okie dokie. I was like, wow, it was fast. It was like,
It's no, I mean they don't mess around with stuff like that. Was that a bee? Did you see what stung you?
yeah, it was something like a bee or a hornet or something. It was like a 4th of July cookout at my parents' house, and me and my son and my brother or something were doing something over on the back, and the bees came out and stung me, and it was like, all right. I'd been stung many times before, no big deal. And then this one was just, and then like a month ago, maybe a few weeks ago, I had a reaction. That's what made me go make this appointment. My uvula got swelled up. I don't know if I ate something or something, and it was I could breathe. I couldn't talk. You know how hard that is for us.
Yeah, well, man, I don't know how you managed.
Yeah, I couldn't talk, and if I tried to talk, it'd make you throw up because it was so big. It would hit the back of my throat, so it'd make me gag. So if I said anything like "What's wrong?" I'd say, and it'd make you want to throw up. So I was like, I had to go to the emergency room for that, and they took me right in on that one too because they're like, oh.
Well, if it's anything blocking the airwaves, that's they're not going to mess around with that. My brother, when we were younger, I mean, I don't remember this. He's 4 years older than me, but he was young, and they went to a rodeo in New Zealand. When obviously that's where they were, and he had a bottle of fizzy drink, whatever it was, and a bee had got into the bottle, and they didn't know, and so he took a swig of that, and it stung his tongue.
Yeah.
And so he, that all swelled up. So again, that was a quick trip to the emergency room. Yeah, because I mean, who knows what that's going to do. So yeah, horrible. But yeah, no, I mean, I've been stung, but I've never had any, any reactions to it. In Spain, oh gosh, 10 years ago, maybe a bit longer. I was when there, someone that I was with there had been bitten by a mosquito under the arm there, and it went a bit red, as a bite does. Didn't think anything of it. Within a day, that reddening had spread and spread and spread, and it was on its way to the lymph nodes. And the doctor that we went to see there, because we had insurance, so we went straight to a private doctor there.
He lost his arm.
Well, yeah. Well, the doctor's like, if you had come in 8 hours later, you'd be in the ICU now.
Wow.
You'd be in serious trouble. So they put her on a drip, and there was blood everywhere, and it's because that was a blood. This was because it was a doctor, of course, and they don't normally take blood. It's quite rare, certainly over here and in certain places. They don't normally. It's nurses that do it, and they tend to be a lot better than doctors. And the nurse went to do it and was just kind of poking up, trying to get blood, and it just went everywhere. So there was blood on the floor of this flipping emergency room. It was all pretty gruesome. Yeah, but anyway, they live to fight another day, or indeed get stung.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, well, there we go. TSG Spartan here is putting the boot in about the UK National Health Service, as we are wont to do. So he said last year I had to book a test. The wait was 16 months. So paid to go private, because who wants to wait that long?
16 months?
Yeah,
16 months for it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. And it says emergency care is as quick as the waiting room is full. Yeah. That, here in the UK, and what's wrong, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's a pastime here. We like to moan about our NHS, our National Health Service. Otherwise we'd only moan about the weather.
Right. Exactly. Well, there's always something to complain about, right? It's like,
we love it.
That's why we have this show. It's like, it's plenty of times to complain. And you can, please feel free to call right in, Steve at brightsidehometheater.com and complain all you want.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll get back to you in 16 months. That's the waiting list.
Oh my God. See, we nailed that one from rehearsal. Oh my God. High five across the pond. We nailed that one. We practiced so many times. He was not on cue.
We're going to have a waiting list for this.
There's people listening going, are they serious?
Yes.
Do they rehearse? Yeah, well, it's part of the sponsorship that we have with Coca-Cola. Yeah. They make us rehearse.
only every other Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the rehearsal for next Tuesday.
Yeah, done. We'll get it right.
Yeah, no, we won't.
True that. True.
Practice makes perfect. Not really. No.
Yeah. Now, to dabble briefly in home theater for a moment.
I'm getting poked and prodded. You're dabbling.
Yeah. Have you got for those listening or those watching? Have you guys checked out or seen Todd's videos on Twitter from CEDIA and these interviews?
I've seen a few of them.
Some interesting things on there from CEDIA about the Mad VR and stuff. Now this is something that occurred to me earlier, because I happened to see one of these. Would you use a Mad VR on a TV?
Yes.
Like a display. And if so, why? I just assumed it was for projectors, because they traditionally have issues with, HDR and everything else. Whereas, so why would you use it on a TV? What kind of TV would you have that would be worth spending the money to get a Mad VR on to improve it? I mean, if you've got the money, you bought a decent TV in the first place and presumably had it calibrated, why would you need a Mad VR, just out of curiosity?
So the Mad VRs and the Lumigens have their processing is better than they're supercomputers for all intents and purposes compared to what is in any display. Now,
right.
I've always thought, I said the same thing when I got my Lumigen. I was like, you don't need this for a display. And it was actually Todd, when he started looking into the Mad VR, and I think it was maybe last year or 2 CDs ago, that he was like, no, this is why you do it. And it's not just for the HDR either, because the HDR processing can be even better, than what's in even your higher end displays. So the ability of, say your top end display, like an OLED or something like that, its ability to hit black level, like dead on black, like nothing, right? That deep black, and then also be able to play to whatever brightness. That's the strength. That's what you're looking for out of your display. Now, the onboard processing in that is going to be, it knows exactly what it can and can't do, but maybe, and this is what I think, I haven't seen the video you're referencing for this year, but I think what people were talking about before, including Todd, was the processing even inside of that OLED isn't as good as what you can get in an outboard processor. And now you'll be able to pull out even more and still have that black, deep black. But also there's things that it can do, because most of your displays are 16:9. But what if you don't want to watch in the 16:9 into the scope screen, and you want to fill that 16:9 display? That can do that. The other thing it can do, like what I do, is it smooths out your smooths out all of your what do you call it? Switching. Okay, so I use mine as a switch. The Mad VR doesn't. Mad VR is one in, one out. The Lumigens have, you can get up to, like I have 6, you can get up to 10. I think they have one. Do they have one that has 10 outputs? So you'd be able to do that and put everything in. The other thing is the up conversion too. Okay, so now you put your Apple TV into this, you put everything, so it sends out a consistent, smooth signal to your display. So the benefits are greater with a projector. Because there isn't a projector, there's not a single projector with the processing power of a outboard processor. But it's also because, I mean, the displays are so good at doing it anyways, it's harder to discern how much you're improving, but there is an improvement there. And there are other reasons other than just the HDR tone mapping that you could do that are a benefit as well. So,
and how much is just ballpark for a Mad VR then, Deech? How much would they be in the States? Just out of interest. Any idea?
Yeah, about 50.
Because I've got no clue.
Yeah, their typical, their Pro, I think, was around 15 grand, something like that. That's what they're coming in at. And then
so if you're buying a top rate, I mean, obviously it's hard with displays, isn't it? Because you're talking screen size, whereas with projectors you're not. So, but if you're looking at a display of 75, 85, let's say we go crazy, 110-inch display, to then spend another 15 grand for obviously the bigger the screen, the more discernible the difference. Seems kind of counterintuitive. It seems kind of weird to potentially more than double the cost of the screen you've just bought for what might be, depending on the viewer, a negligible upgrade. It just seems kind of strange, doesn't it? That there'd be a lot of effort spent on that side of it.
Well, yeah and no. It depends on what it's also the hobby. There's people that look at everything we do and go, what are you doing? I like it. The movie sounds great through my TV. I'm like, well, you're nuts. But yeah, it really depends on what you're doing and how picky you're going to get. And you're right. It's like, so like with a Lumigen, for instance, you can get multiple outputs as well. Like I have 3 outputs. So I can go to 2 video and an audio. So what if I wanted to run the same signal and it would end up going to, like, eventually in my new home, I'll have a display out in the, entertainment area. Yeah. Right. So I would be taking the signal, everything comes in, and now I can send the perfect image to the projector, but now also utilize it to send it to a typical display. So now it depends on how you want to use the tool. That's all. It's a tool that if you find a benefit in it, then it's worth it to you. If you have that, I mean, like Mad VR is like 15, but a typical Lumigen's like mine, I think was listed at 8. Is what the MSRP of the 5244. So I think that's the one I have. It's like 8 or something like that. But then Mad VR came out with one that's at $5,200 or $5,000 now. They have an entry level one, and which does basically, it does your tone map, all the important things that you want. Now, if you want stretching and all that other stuff, you can add that on at additional cost. But now you can get in and do that tone mapping and get that high powered tone mapping you want. So you don't have to spend $15,000. There are other options both now within Mad VR or the competition between the two, Lumigen and Mad VR. So
No, yeah, it was curious because this video kind of was talking about displays and Lumigins and specifically in this case Mad VR, and it just was confusing me because I thought, well, because I've heard you talk about the Lumigin, and I know obviously that for projectors it's it's almost essential, isn't it?
yeah.
Whereas for a display it kind of feels strange because you'd like to think with a higher end display, and I'm thinking about the Sonys particularly, their tone mapping, their internal architecture is second to none generally, and there are a lot of people in the industry absolutely rave about it, and I love the one from mine, and so it's it kind of struck me as a bit of a strange kind of thing that you'd want a display plus that. You've got Rich Zagazeski saying in a video wall starting at 40k, so just video walls paying 15k isn't nonsense. Although you're looking at another third again potentially on the cost.
But it's
I mean, I don't know what the quality of them's like, so I've not seen them.
it's there is a benefit there, and but it needs to be like it needs to be something that you can see and you can justify, because so like you even said, like it's almost essential for a projector. But it's not. Like the JVC's tone mapping is so good that it's really not necessary. You get really good tone mapping. The problem, but this is better. The Lumigin and the Mad VR do far superior tone mapping, but is that enough for you? Right? So you're paying probably anywhere from $6,000 to $15,000 for those two entry-level JVCs, and you're getting really good tone mapping, a really good image, and a really good black level, right? Really, and that's so with all of that, is it worth another, say, $5,000 to get that superior tone mapping that you will see a difference, but is that $5,000 worth it to you, or do you put it someplace else? And what I recommend, my opinion is absolutely, because once you have that in place, now you can shop for the best, lens or the best color or the best, and even the black levels. When you get into the difference between the Sonys and the JVCs, it's like JVCs offer, as you heard Mikey and I talk about, right? JVCs offer a lot. It's more striking, a lot more pop to it because the black levels are so good. And when you get to the nitty gritty, it's like, if you're going to do the black levels that good, there's going to be a little bit of a sacrifice in the top end that most people will never, ever see. And that's the fact. And then you look at like a Sony where they try to lean towards the top end and get your brightnesses perfect so that your colors are right. And Sony is more about the global part of the entire image. And now you really do need that tone mapping, right? And then you go even further. Once you have all of these things, once you have, like, I have my Lumigin, I have all this. Now you get into looking at the Barcos and the Christies. It's almost required there for the DLP, right? So now and that's why those have them. And so now you're tone mapping that, and believe it or not, if you saw my projector before I had the Lumigin, it can't compare to a JVC and the black levels and everything. Once I put the Lumigin in line, it actually improves your black levels, because what it does is now it's doing everything right, and your black levels are actually improved perception wise, because now there's brighter parts of the screen when there should be. Whereas before, the overall image, they would take a percentage of that shot and say, okay, this is what we can do with it. And it's like, all right, we can only go this bright because we have to be this dark. And the computer didn't know I need to go brighter because it didn't know how to do it. So it wouldn't do it as bright, so that your darks would still have it without sacrificing the detail in the black level, in the shadows, right? Now when you put that processor in, all those bright parts of that scene now make those black parts seem even blacker. And now you have the best of everything. Okay. So it's all in perception. It's all in how these things work. And it's just, to me, it's fascinating. And it's like all of this stuff. And it is kind of fun for me too, because I look back in like the 90s with the Faruja video processors they had, which were doing something completely different, because it was line doubling, because you had like 480 lines of resolution, but you're trying to put it up to a 120-inch screen with a CRT projector. And it's like at 120 inches, you're looking at like 480 lines of resolution, which are about like each line's like an inch thick. It
Yeah.
looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they had these Ferrugia line doublers, triplet, whatever, and those things were $100,000. And I'm like, how do you pay? And you're paying $100,000 for your CRT projector to get it that big. And it's like crazy money, dreamland stuff that you could never, ever think of. And here we are today. And it's like, if you don't already have, if you don't have any of this stuff, it's not as far away as it used to be. Right. It's like, all right, I got to save up 6 months, a year or something. And you can get something like this if you deem it necessary. If you don't, it's not the end of the world because our images are way better than they were back then. Even with that, they'd spent $200,000 back in the 80s and 90s, and it wouldn't even be like a quarter as good as what we have now.
Yeah.
So it's, like Todd said, it's like the golden age of home theater. That's Todd Anderson from AV Nirvana.
We should say, of course I said Todd's videos. I didn't say where he's from. Yeah, I should say that.
Yeah.
And John Thompson,
everybody's Googling Todd's videos. Oh, that's not what I want to see.
Yeah. Put it away, Todd. Also from AV Nirvana. Oh
my God.
John, yes. Let's not talk about those pictures.
Todd is just, I can't remember what it was, but we're at CD again this year. We're standing in a crowd of people and he went south with some comment. And I'm like, every single time, buddy, every single time he said something, at least it wasn't like when it was me, Michael, and him, and a woman's giving us this demonstration. He's like, I'd like this in my shower. I was like, oh God. Why do you always have to be naked?
Oh man! So John says so a Lumagen and even an
Envy. He's gonna fall over and kill me.
So John says a Lumagen and even an Envy will annihilate any processing in a TV, and you've not seen a picture until you've seen it via a good VP. No, fair play, John. I mean, look, I'm always going to defer to the professionals, and John is such a professional. I get that.
Yeah.
But I was just fascinated by the idea of needing a video processor for a display as opposed to a projector, because I just figured that a decent high-end display would be very, very good, and that any further video processing might actually detract from the image, but I'm not an expert on it.
Right.
And I've not, I mean, I've never seen a Lumagen working, never seen a Mad VR. I don't know, but it just seemed kind of strange to me. But yeah, there we go. Because I've only ever heard talk of them when you've been mentioning them with your projector, and I get that that's really important then. Whereas for displays, I'd never heard of it before, which is why it kind of piqued my interest.
Yeah. And I'll give you another one. It's like our displays, not all displays are created equal. Not all OLEDs are created equal, right? So if you end up with a Lumagen or a Mad VR, you could probably save some money and get the cheaper OLED without the great processing, or from what I've now learned, even get one without Dolby Vision or whatever and save the money on that. And then anything with Dolby Vision that comes through, the Lumagen would then, I'm not 100% sure about Mad VR, but I do know the Lumagen now will take the Dolby Vision in, tone map the Dolby Vision for the display, so that, because certain Dolby Vision titles, I don't know if I told you this on air, off air, or whatever, but certain Dolby Vision, not all Dolby Vision content does this, but some of them are mastered at like something crazy like 10,000 nits, right? Well, your display is awesome, Steve, but it doesn't do 10,000 nits, right?
No.
But now what it'll do is the processor will say, okay, here's the maximum brightness your display can do, Steve, and it sets that at 10,000. That's the 10,000 nit mark. Okay. Now it will take every nit from there all the way down to 0, which is black, and you will get all 10,000 grades, even on your display. Okay. Now, if it's mastered at 1,000 nits, it'll do the exact same thing, and it's doing that so you're not missing a detail. And now this is where it shines on a projector, because when it's that big, you're not missing any detail. You're not missing anything, because all those little details are now bigger than they would be on, say, a 70-inch OLED. Right. So it's like, it's basically, that's kind of what tone mapping is. It's taking that grade scale, and it's like 10,000 nits is 10,000 is the brightest, 0 is the lowest, and you're not missing one. Whereas, say, my projector without it didn't have good tone map, it didn't do all of that. It'd be like, okay, in this particular scene here, we got to take that 10,000 nit one. We're cutting that off and we're coming in at 500 nits because that's all the projector can do. And then you're going to get everything all the way down from there or something. You know what I mean? So it's not as good. And the JVCs with their tone mapping, they do it to the same level on frame by frame. It's just not as detailed as what an outboard processor can do. So.
Okay. Yep. Well, look at that. See, I am educated.
Yeah. And again, this is all to say it is worth it if you see the value in it.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, everything we're saying going right over their head, and they're like, I think my image looks great. I wouldn't touch a thing. It's like, if you can't see the difference, don't spend the money because, until you know the difference, it's not worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, and someone comes around and you go, oh, look at my new Mad VR Lumagen, and they just go blank and go, looks right to me. Yeah. So yeah. It's got to be something that you get something out of. Otherwise, why bother? Keep the money, save it. Save it for a rainy day.
Yeah. So here, and this is, you can get so into the weeds on this stuff. Like, and John, I love,
and John does.
We get into the weeds all the time about this, and it's funny. He's like, DJ, so you got 4,096 steps in 12 bits over 10,024 bits on 10 bits on a 10-bit color. And and he's right. You can get into the weeds on this stuff. And what I like, let's look at it. I don't want to know that stuff. I don't want to know anything. I want to see the display on the screen. I want to see content on the screen. And I know that when I got my Lumagen, Jim installs it, calibrates everything. He puts up the same stuff that he's always put up, which was discs, and it was, Star Trek Into the Darkness, a few, I can't remember off the top of my head what they were, but it's always the same thing, right? And I'm like, wow, it does look better. Oh, look at those bright dots on that. And, look at this and, look great. And I go, let me see the stuff that got me here, which was the show Foundation. Literally got emotional, visually emotional at how good it was. The tone, I was like, it elevated, and that's the thing. It elevates everything in your system, not just it's going to take the 4K HDR and make it look great for your display, but now it's going to take the streaming stuff and really pull it up and make it look great. It's going to take the Blu-ray stuff and really tone map that for you, so that I thought this was HDR. Nope, it's SDR. It does all of that, and if you can do that without getting into all of the 10-bit, 12-bit, this, that, and the other thing, and you see that on your display, and you go, oh my God. It's like, that's what you want. It doesn't matter about the numbers, is what you're seeing. And that's the most important part. So
it's almost like it's all about the experiences.
And Steve, it's all about the bright side, not the other side, not behind the rack, not the dark spaces back there, which we do like to go into, but it's the bright side. What's shooting at your face? All right, let's leave that one alone.
Yeah, I was going to say, given recent events. Let's steer clear of that.
All right. Yes. Oh boy, John.
Alrighty.
John's on fire, and John Thompson's on fire in the comments. I love it.
Because John's coming off of a lengthy Twitter debate he's having with various people and reviewers.
Oh, really?
About what they're seeing and what they're not seeing. And John's great for that, and he's so he's ready for action on that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like all of this stuff. And I've always said from the beginning, I get my Lumagen. What did I talk? Actually, when I got my Lumagen, Mad VR didn't exist. But once they did, I say either one, they're good. I mean, there's advantages to both. I like what Mad VR is doing. They're pushing the envelope. They're pushing things. They're making a competition. That's the idea. I prefer the Lumagen because I like the multiple, outputs. I like some of the other processing they do. I love Jim. He's a pioneer in this. But I always say video processor. Right. And it's like, and that's what I've always said on the show. I'm video processor. It's what it is. It's like, that's the important part. I'd love to see a third company come out, make more competition. Right. We have Burger King, McDonald's, and Wendy's. Right. And it's like, so Coke and Pepsi, all of this, it's all competition, and we benefit from it. Right. You want to argue here, which one's better? Mad VR, Lumagen, Sony, JVC. It's great. Great. Argue to your heart's content. We win. Yeah. Always. So when we lose, and when there's only one, and they take us for granted and they screw us. And you don't get that. You don't see that. And so that's what I like to see. All right.
Capitalism in action.
Yes, exactly. So that's the idea. All right. Do we want to actually get to some content, Steve?
Oh yeah.
Or is there anything else you'd like to get me riled up about?
Yeah, we've done allergies. We've done health services.
We've already talked about blood.
Yeah, we've done that.
We're going to get to more of that.
So you're whetting my appetite. Yeah, okay.
Wetting.
Right.
Yeah.
Go on then. Let's do this. We've got 3. I think I've got. I don't know how many
you've got. 3. Let me see. What do you got, Maya? Let me see your
There's
show.
One that's a little bit older. It's been there a few weeks.
This one.
I think
that's John.
No, that was John.
Yeah, keep
going
John.
Through. It's been there a little while. I think it might be next to the Acolyte one. No, that's the one we're going to talk about in a bit. Not that one.
Where's that?
It should be there. It's been there a little while. I think it's that next to the First Omen one there.
Oh, this one?
To the left. Yeah, that's the one.
There we go. See, we didn't nail this one in rehearsal. Not even close.
We're dealer. Yeah, that's all right.
Exactly. All right, we ready to do this?
It's quite a good segue, isn't it? Look at what it's called.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Okay, this is called Sting. As it turns out. Now, those of you with a sense of deja vu, is because we have talked about this before, but the last time that I talked about this movie was on a screener that I had seen in 1080p, and I think it was only in stereo from what I can recall. And I remember talking about this then and saying, I can't wait to get my hands on a physical version of this because I think it'll be really, really good. So this is Sting. This is a 2024 movie on Blu-ray. Unfortunately, it's not out in 4K physically. I'm sure it will be on Kaleidoscope Deej, but I think it's only out on Blu-ray physically and in DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 up next to Neural X. Very quickly about the movie, because I did outline it last time, what the movie's about. This is a movie about an alien spider that comes to Earth. It is very small initially and ends up being looked after by a young girl in a New York apartment complex where there's a blizzard going on outside, and she names it Sting. And this little spider can whistle, and when it's hungry, it whistles at her. And so she feeds it, and it gets bigger and bigger, and the food gets bigger and bigger. So, and on it goes. It's a schlocky B movie, of course it is, but a really fun film. And I had a great time watching it for a second time, this time properly. And I watched it, Cinema George. This was before I went to Spain. We've had this for a few weeks now. I tried to build up some that I'd seen in Cinema George before I went. So this was on the big screen and in Neural X, and I watched it. Really enjoyed it second time. It is every bit as B movie as one would hope, and from the way I've described it, it's all day long. If you like creature features, if you like kind of icky horror movies, this is one for you. Now the video on it. Now, it's a little bit problematic at times in terms of the video because it's pretty dark for much of it. It's set in this tenement building with the snow outside. It's all very dimly lit. And there are times when I spotted some noise in the dark areas. It's not grain because it's been shot digitally. And so there was some noise I spotted, which was a bit annoying at times. Not loads of it, but there was some. And it's not like me normally to notice that, but I did. And it was mildly irritating. And I'm hoping that a 4K release eventually of this, if we get one, will take care of that. It's not end of the world stuff, but it's just a bit irritating. But otherwise, it looks great.
I've heard that about myself. People have said that about me.
Well, I don't like to say. No.
That's a compliment, though. Those are people you're just mildly irritating.
Yeah, exactly. If they say you're just completely irritating,
most people,
then it's just
no. Well, if they're running away, then that
not even saying anything.
Oh, hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, bye. So it's a little bit annoying, but it doesn't really ruin the experience because there's a lot of detail. The black levels generally are pretty good, and the detail on some of this stuff, including all the icky stuff, is really good. What is the reason to see this though? and especially this version, the reason to see this and to get it is the audio. Because I remember saying before, this was in stereo, and even my room, with the receiver will try and upmix even stereo to Mirrorless if it detects it. And I remember saying, oh, look, I think this is going to sound great on a proper disc. And I was right, because it does sound really good. And there's a conceit in this, is that Sting moves around inside the air vents. Okay, so in this, now again, that's completely new to us in England, but the idea that buildings like this have these air vents, these crawl spaces, and Sting moves around those, and Sting makes lots of noise when he's trying to kill things and move around and stuff. And so lots of times you've got a character in the foreground, and you've then got audio noise coming from the various crawl spaces around you. And so the character looks at the camera and follows the noise behind you as the creature moves. And so that moves with all the speakers. So you've got, the creature runs up the left wall, or across the back wall, and down the right wall. And it happens again and again and again. And when it does its little signature whistle, it sort of goes, and when it does that moves with it as well. And it's really cool. It's very, very effective. And with a kind of movie like this, which is a B movie and it's a horror and there's comedy stuff as well, it really does add some atmosphere to it. And it's much more fun. Someone watching this on a stereo, TV or a sound bar or whatever is missing half the movie, because the way that sound is used in this in a very playful sense is half the film to me. And I was right to look forward to the disc, because having seen it all the way through, I'm like, oh yeah, right, great. Yep, I remember that. I was right. That's correct. So this is worth seeing. If you're into creature feature type movies, I don't know, Deej, if I'd say to you to put it on your Halloween list, because that list is getting ever longer. But it is worth
4
seeing.
weeks in a month, and every year I get about 12 movies.
That's it. So you've got, but it is worth seeing. And again, we mentioned Todd Wadsworth. If he hasn't seen it and he's listening to this, then see it, Todd, because I know you'll like it. It's definitely your kind of thing. And so if you haven't seen it, if you're curious about it, do it. This has been out now for a few weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if this shows up on a streaming service soon. So if you don't want to spend the money and you're not sure, it's going to be on streaming fairly soon, and worth your time. It's an hour and a half. It's not a long movie, and it's every bit as fun as an Alien Spider movie should be. So definitely recommend it. Again, I got excited, so I forget to check the chat. So Jordan says he loves Sting. Great surprise of the year. The spine detail on the Blu-ray case. Oh yeah, the spine of the case. Oh, I haven't got it available. It's got a little spider hanging down from a web, and if it's on your shelf, it'll look like there's a spider on your thing.
Oh, nice.
Quite clever. So that's pretty cool. So Dom says he prefers the French spider movie Vermine, which in fact, Dom, I think, DM'd me about it after I spoke about Sting last time, but I can't find an English version of it, so I've not been able to do much with that, but I will do. And TSG Spartan, again, local boy, I'll watch this once spider mating season is over. Now I don't know if you guys get that over there at this time of year. We do here, and there are house spiders which are fairly significant, hand size, will come wandering into the house because it's cold, and they come looking for mates, so they come
hand-sized.
Well, depends on how big your hands are, but generally,
I don't care if it's the size of a baby's hand. That's big. That's a spider. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's fairly sizable, and they do bite. I mean, these are ones where we talked before. You don't go picking these up. You get a glass and a piece of paper, and you escort them out, because these things will bite. I'd
be escorting my wife out, not the spider.
Well, you just move house.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be like Poltergeist. Time to move.
They're here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you turn the TV on for them and you'd leave.
Yeah, exactly. Here you go. What do you want to watch? Arachnophobia? Knock yourself out. Gotta go.
So it's so I get that. It does, as it did last time. If you watch this in a cinema room where it's dark and afterwards, and if you put on your Phillips hue lighting, and again, as I say, we talked about this last time, you've got the little dark areas in the room which spotlights create. And again, I'd be lying if I said, and I've got no fear of spiders, but I'd be lying if I said part of me is not kind of casting my eyes up into the corner of the room and thinking, is that one up there?
Spiders don't bother me at all. I like spiders. It's like if I get them in the house, I pick them up, take them outside. It's like they don't bother me at all. But when you're watching movies like this, you do get I don't want them walking up the back of my neck. I wouldn't kill it. I'd be like, oh, okay. Well, I'd probably, if it's the back, I'd swat it because I don't know it's a spider yet. But you're still sitting in your theater and you're like, you hear the noise and you're like, oh, it's like, no.
Well, quite. I mean, we visited a serpentarium in Spain literally last week, and snakes everywhere. It's great. They hold all the snakes. Fantastic.
Oh, you had to bring up snakes.
But, sorry. Although they did have a very cool scorpion as well, which they took out and had on the hand. It was very cool. Scorpion, massive.
Love scorpions.
Anyway, they had a tarantula there, a big one, not a Goliath one. I was hoping they'd have a Goliath. Those are like a size of a plate. But these were, like a dinner plate. But they had a sizable tarantula there, which they brought out, and I just think they're amazing. They're just incredible. I could look at them all day.
I literally, you mentioned snakes. I haven't had a nightmare dream probably since I was a little kid, and last night I had one.
Snakes.
About snakes.
Why did it have to be
jumped? Why did it have to be snakes? I literally jumped, kicked my feet, a full body, like everything moved, and I was like, sweat, like, what the? And I was in a pool, but the pool was only like, a foot deep, and a snake, which I knew in the dream was a poisonous snake, but it was only this little, like maybe 16 inches long. But I knew in the dream, I'm like, those are poisonous. And it came up to me and it bit my ankle. And I was like, oh no. And I'm like, now I got to get to the doctors. And then magically another one bit the other ankle. And next thing I knew, they were like, a bunch of them were all biting my ankles. And that's when I just kicked. And I woke up and I was like, it was so real. Scared. I have not had a dream like that since I was a kid. And I don't know where that came from, but it scared the
crap. What is it about snakes that scares you or makes you unsettled? I can't imagine you being scared of them, Deej, somehow, but you're too much of a man's man for that.
No. I used to be, I used to be afraid of them. But then, and not like, I just had this conversation with somebody. I'm like, they call it an irrational fear. And I'm like, no, this is not irrational. They're snakes. They're poisonous. You should have a fear.
Not all of them are.
No, not all of them. But like, I had an incident when I was cleaning the pool as a kid. My father and my neighbor at the front of the house, and I put my hand in the skimmer basket to empty it, but it was filled, like all the water, it was covered in leaves. So I stick my hand through the leaves to the bottom to grab the handle, and a snake came up between my fingers and went like this right around my arm and coming up to my shoulder. And I grabbed it and threw it. Now that's the man's man story. The non-man's man story is I went like a girl and then ran around the house. And my father and my neighbor are dying laughing on the front lawn. They're like, what little girl just got attacked in the backyard? I was like, me. But the snake was like, boom, boom, through the air.
Became a flying snake, or is it like a boomerang?
Exactly.
Came back.
Like, everything up until the scream was manly, but a 15-year-old going, it's like,
you see, I've always loved snakes. I wanted to be a herpetologist when I was younger. Before I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to snakes, amphibians, all that. I love all that. But I saw, I don't know if I've told you this story. I'm very great. It's worth telling because it's horrible. There was a in Spain years and years and years and years ago when we were
stand by, everybody. We will get back to movies.
Yeah, we will. It's worth. It's just such a story. This one, I love telling this one.
Steve and
I saw the creation of a phobia. I saw it happen in front of me. So we were in Spain. There was a party going on, like a birthday party. Okay. And it was for a young girl. And I think she would have been about 8 or 9. So very young. Okay. Youngish anyway.
Yeah.
And so what they'd done, being Spain, they had strung up a string. Okay. And across this string, which would have been, I don't know, 6 feet long, about thereabouts. And in each, and every sort of 6-7 inches or so, there were little terracotta pots. Okay, so imagine, like, well, I don't know, sort of yay big, I suppose. Okay, and what she was doing is, the pinata thing, and what they did is she would stood underneath them, and she had a little stick, and she'd hit the pots, and out the pots would break, and they're only very thin, and out would prop sweets, whatever you'd call them. Yeah, so sweets. That's sort of chocolate, that kind of thing. Candy, there you go. I knew that was the word. Yeah, so that's what they do. All right, so she'd hit that and they'd come out. All right, and she was stood underneath it. Hit one, out comes the candy. Hit two, out comes the candy. Stood under this pot, hit the third one. It was full of snakes. And they went all over her.
For real? Like real snakes?
These were real snakes.
Who would do that to somebody?
Right. You indeed, and I swear, honestly, I can see it now like it was yesterday, right?
Yeah, I can see it too, and I wasn't there.
She went catatonic.
No kidding.
And I mean, just froze, and the scream. It was like it was stuck in her throat. So she went sort of and just froze.
I would have needed a new pair of underwear.
What she might have done, I don't. Yeah, absolutely.
No, not even funny.
I've never seen anything like that before.
No.
It was like, talk about the creation of a phobia.
No, creation of a phobia. Whoever put that together is probably getting an ass kicking. Like, who did this to me?
We couldn't believe it. We could not believe it. But anyway. So just like what?
Awful. That is awful.
Whereas I love snakes, and I mean, I've handled poisonous snakes and any kind of snake. I absolutely love them. And the guy, funnily enough, did this snake room last week. He was nice chap, and he was saying, all of these are non-poisonous. Like, yeah, fine. And we were handling them and stuff. And he said, but they do still bite. He said, but it's fine. It's just like a normal bite. It's fine. And he goes, oh look, one bit me yesterday. He's got his two puncture holes right here. But like I said, I absolutely love them. I think they're great animals. But I get that people, are frightened of them. But it's just
ever since my son was born, it's like once you have a kid and you are now a protector, it's like nothing. You're afraid of nothing, right? At least to me, all your phobias go away. Everything else is going away. It's like, because now it's a job. Something shows up like that, and you're like, oh, this, and you're trying to teach them not to be afraid. Like, oh, don't worry about it. When inside you're going, run. It's like,
but only if you can control the environment. So, for instance, planes. So if you are that protector thought on a plane where you've not got that control. I was reading an article about it last week. That's when that protector instinct can be a real problem, because now you can't help other than, I suppose, never put them on a plane. But once you're on that plane, you then lose that control. That ability to protect is now nullified, because your protection is in the hands of someone else.
Right.
Well,
unless
you're Tom Cruise.
If something goes wrong with the plane, trust me, your protector role, everything's over. I'm on your protector role. It's like, ma'am, I was going to protect you, but we're done.
That's it. Done.
You lived a full life. I know you're 3, but guess what? You never have to worry about saving for retirement. There you go, buddy.
That's good news. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, indeed. Taxes, not enough to worry about them.
Don't worry about. There's a few things in life that are real. For you, it's just one. This mountain. Done.
I'm glad we weren't talking about this last week.
Hashtag bright side to a crash.
Yeah, before I flew back.
Yeah. Oh God.
All right.
Go ahead, trip me up. I can bright side anything. Donkey. I'm an idiot. All right.
So that was Sting.
That was Sting. This one here, I got a scene. I know I've talked about this scene before. And I talked about it when I did the movie, but it was definitely worth revisiting. So let's get to this. It was a lot of fun to revisit it. And so this is If, the John Krasinski movie that he wrote, directed, produced, the entire thing for his kids, Imaginary Friends, that movie. And I talked about this, 2 months ago, something like that.
At least.
And really, really good. Probably, I don't know about one of my favorite, it's not animated, but it is animated, but it's just a great, one of my favorite family movies, because, Imaginary Friends, how can you go wrong there? I imagine a lot of things. So, but there's a scene in this movie that's to me, it's an absolute demo scene. Have you seen this, Steve? Have you seen
Do you know what? I haven't. I wasn't sure if I would want to see it. I don't.
Why?
Yeah, I'm curious about it.
But why wouldn't you want to see it?
Well, because it looked a bit goofy from the trailers that I saw, and I wasn't sure if maybe it was skewing towards a younger audience than me.
Mm-mm.
So like I said,
Well,
I don't
that's
know.
a wide range there, buddy. I know I'm a little older than you, but that's a lot of audience down there.
Hey! Now.
Slightly younger audience than you. There you go.
Who's that young?
That's a steep slide. But yeah, no, I think it would. I mean, we've all been kids. We've all had, creativity, imagination, stuff like that. And I think for adults, this is a good reminder, especially that's kind of the message of the movie. That's literally actually not kind of, it is literally the message of the movie is that when you grow up, you lose that part. You get too realistic. You get too like, nah, you can't do that. That's why we love, like when you were kids, you love Star Wars. And now the new ones, you're like, come on, what are you doing? When you're a kid, you could imagine anything. Now you can't imagine anything. And that's, all the creativity usually goes away. And that's what this kind of movie is about. So yeah, definitely. I think it skews to any age really. And that's what I liked about it. But this one particular scene is at 45 minutes and 20 seconds into the movie. And it's basically it's an unbelievable Tina Turner music video. And, Better Be Good to Me, I think is the song. If that's not the title, it's what she keeps saying in the song, And this little girl in the movie, she has to use her imagination. She does. And basically, Ryan Reynolds' character is the victim of her imagination in this particular scene, music video. And they do everything in this. The music in the video, the way they move it around the room, the way they regulate the sound, the track to go with what's going on scene. It actually breaks out into a concert type scene as well, where it fills the room and you feel like you're there. It's bonkers for real. And like, if you could have never have seen the movie, and if you take this, if you happen to have it, I didn't do it on streaming. I did it on my Kaleidoscape, but if you found it on streaming and you wanted to go to the scene, it won't really ruin the movie for you. It won't. I mean, it's about imagination, and that's what the girl does in this particular scene. But it's the colors for the HDR are absolutely amazing in this. And it's what I watched it a few times. So I had a couple of younger friends over, 8 and 5 years old, and we were like, they wanted to see this movie. They saw it go by on the Kaleidoscape, and they're like, that one. I'm like, oh, okay. There you go. And we were watching, and dinner was ready. Like, let's do this scene. And we did that scene, and I loved it then, watched it a few times afterwards for the show and just to analyze it. And yeah, it's just, the colors are popping because of the HDR, the black levels, the detail that you see in the different costumes Ryan Reynolds is wearing there. That you'll see in it there's one particular part where he comes, literally comes out of a painting, right? And what happens, you got to see it, but like the paint's all over him. But the detail in the paint that being on him, because you could still see the texture in the clothes he's wearing, but now he's got paint on him. Similar to like if you paint a canvas, you could still see the canvas behind the paint. And there's detail like that. The sunlight behind the ocean. You see where I'm going with this? It's like, wait a minute, he was just coming out of a painting. Now there's a sunlight behind an ocean. There's so many things in it because it's all about imagination. And then the crossover of the special effects. So you have real world characters like a Ryan Reynolds in this, fake world, how far we've come since Space Jam or Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And to see, like, it's seamless. And and then on top of that, you have the Tina Turner hit just playing through the whole thing, and the bass, the clarity, everything about it. And it's just fun to watch. You're sitting there, it's like, it's just so much fun to watch the things that they do with it. So definitely, like, you got little kids and you want to demo your room, and you're like, hey, come down and see this. It'd be like, pull this up, whether it's streaming, whatever. I'd say on streaming, I didn't test it, but I'd go 5 dB over. And what you normally and
do you know what it's streaming on, Deej? Is it streaming on anything in particular? I just had a look on Netflix. Yeah. It's not on there. Because Jordan says, Yeah, he said he was surprised by how good it was. The trailers didn't do it justice. We'll have to import the 4K disc because the UK only got the Blu-ray. So I might wait for streaming and see if that hits in 4K. I mean, just looking at that image there, Deej, I mean, looking at the colors of the greenery and the leaves to the right there, and then the yellow of those flowers and the flesh tones. I mean, it looks really nice. That's kind of, how it the different colors just in that one image look pretty incredible.
I mean, look at the color in her hair. Talk about HDR, and like you see the highlights in her hair and the dark parts, and then you see the highlights and everything. And like you said, this is where a video processor really quote unquote shines, because that scene behind her with where you could see the trees and the pinks in those trees. If you don't get decent processing, some of that gets blown out just to show you her in the front of it. It'll get blurred. And then by contrast, good word, you get the flowers on the right there, right? Those are darker, but then you see how light and how bright that scene is supposed to be behind her, but then to still be able to have the lighting on her face. And it's like all of this stuff that without good video processing, it's going to be just like in real life. You ever stood in front of a light and then somebody's looking at you and your face is blacked out because your eyes are adjusting to the light behind it, right? Yeah. Well, think of all the work this is cinematography right here, and I'm sure John will jump in and say something, but to do this, do you know how much light has to be on her face to compensate for the light behind them? And then on top of that, have the camera be able to catch both? And now on our side, people are going to be like, you don't need video processing. It's like, yeah, you do, because you know how much work they put in just to get that image that you just commented on. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. John, John says, it's a kids film, target audience 6 to 12. But if you're a big kid like DJ and I, you'll love it.
Yeah.
So that's all right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. I'm on the board.
I think everybody here is a big kid. That's why we're here. We're all like having fun.
True. And he says it was a vanity thank you project by Paramount to John Krasinski for making them a shed load of money on the Quiet Place series, which is fair enough. And then John then says, sorry to bang on the drum of the disc. It's a true 12-bit Dolby Vision image, and it's something else. So okay, all right. Well, I'm
this
curiosity piqued.
Yeah, and this is one that now that he says that is where John says it's a true 12-bit Dolby Vision image. When I get the Kaleidoscape V, which will give me Dolby Vision to my projector, because my projector isn't Dolby Vision, but the Lumagen will do it. It's going to retone map this scene. It's going to retone map that to the correct nits and the 12-bit, and the Lumagen will modify it and give me everything that I can possibly get out of my projector. So it's like it's fun. The technology keeps advancing, and you don't need more content. We just take our old content and go, "Wow, that looks good."
Yeah, it is very cool with that. And Jordan says it's a Paramount Plus film, so it'll release on Paramount Film, so it'll release on Paramount Plus at some point. Okay. Well, I might catch it on that, and then just see if it's a good film, and then I'll import it. I've imported I've got coming a couple of releases from America next week, which I'm looking forward to talking about. One in particular, I'm not going to say until I've got it.
One in particular,
but if it's very good, then I'll get this. I'll import this as well, but I need to see it first.
Yeah,
But it looks good. Looks very cool. Yeah, even that still image is really good. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to revisit. So.
Pretty sure we've heard of this chap before. Greg, said he thinks it's on Paramount Plus now. So okay, all right, maybe not be over here though, Greg. We'll have to have a little look into that. Okay, brilliant.
Now that Greg, the awesome ninja, thanks Greg for popping into the chat. I should have mentioned this earlier. There you go, a proud papa moment. My kids they did a half marathon this weekend.
God, nice.
Yeah, 13.1 miles. My daughter. Right, yeah. As you know my daughter, right, Steve? Yeah, she's the one.
Only by a nickname.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to say it. It causes trouble.
Exactly. So that's Greg on the right, and then my daughter Meg, my future daughter-in-law Kayla in the middle next to Meg, and then obviously my son Joe there on the left. And my daughter's like, I'm gonna do a half marathon, and of course the rest of them are like, you're not doing this alone. And so they ran, and competed at different. They're all super competitive, so they didn't do it together. They all just like boom, and so we're standing there. My battery, I got there to take video of it. Their finishes, we got none of them. None of them. It was ridiculous.
They were too fast.
No, we're too stupid. My wife and I are like, where'd they go? Well, they got these. So they bought these shirts, these nice lime green shirts, so that we could pick them out of a crowd. Not a single one of them wore them across the finish line. So, like, my wife and I are watching every bearded guy with glasses run by, and apparently we missed him. And he wanted to do it in 2 hours. And he was like, so we're there. We got there half hour before the 2 hour mark. So we're there at 9:30. 2 hour mark would have been at 10. And we were looking, nothing. It was like 10:15. And I'm like 45 minutes late. My wife even made the joke as an ambulance went by, like, get the video of the ambulance. I think Joe's in that. Like, where'd he go? We don't know. So we're like, what happened? My daughter called us both twice with a butt dial. Now, you want to talk about like a scary moment. Your daughter's doing 13.1 miles. She's never done this before. She trained her ass off. And you get a phone call about an hour into it. I'm like, oh, crap. She's in the back of an ambulance. And I'm like, hello? She goes, oh, sorry, butt dial. It's like, okay, good. So
there's always a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So my son came in 4 minutes after his goal, which is still, he's like, gotta do another one. I'm like, no, don't. And they all came at really good times, and it was actually Joe, Greg, Kayla, and Meg in that order. And Meg was the only one I thought, because I thought we'd worked out all the kinks. She's coming across the finish line. I got my camera ready for the video. I hit the button and I'm like, so there she goes, right through the finish. I got her. And then I took a video of the time and everything. And then I put it down, hit stop, and then I go to watch it. Oh, now I'm recording. So I did I wasn't recording then, but then when I went to hit stop, I hit record. So we got none of them. But I did get this lovely picture.
No, yeah, all's well that ends well.
Yeah, I guess. So,
yeah, oh man, just stick to enjoying movies, Deej, not shooting them.
Yeah, exactly. yeah, cinematography out the window.
But you would have never seen Greg ananyway. I mean, he's a ninja. Surely the whole point of that is
that was I actually did see him go, but I wasn't ready with the camera because I didn't know exactly. I was like, there he goes. So I saw him. Same with Kayla. It was like, there goes Kayla. But none of them had their shirts on. They had, not like Meg and Kayla were shirtless, but they didn't have the green shirts on. So I'm like, oh no. So
never mind.
Never mind.
Always next time.
Yeah. So, all right. But congratulations to them. It was awesome. And it was, I said, I've done these races. I've done triathlons. I've done that. I said to my wife standing there, Greg, if I could only remap my skin tone. Oh God. But standing, like all the training that it takes to do what they did, everything, I've done that. I've been there. I'll be there again someday. It's hard. But I said to my wife, standing on the sidelines waiting for them, that's harder. I'm like, I would rather train for a year to do another one before I want to stand on the sidelines and go, I just want to be there with them. I want to run with them. I just want, and you're like, so but it's so hard to do what they did. And they did, all four of them trained so hard for it. So, which is the way to do it. You don't just sign up and then just limp across.
Not sensibly. Yeah, no. Otherwise you do end up in the back of an ambulance.
Exactly. So, all right. Which one do you want next?
Let's do chuck one, not that one, the next one to that one. The one to the right of that. I think I can just see your cursor there. Yeah,
there
that one.
Go.
Let's do that one. Or let's end with, or towards the end of my the next one. Yeah, this is it.
Okay.
Chuck that one up.
All right, here we go.
Okay. Apologies, by the way, for the dreadful picture. Okay, both of the next two that I'm going to talk about are Sony releases, and they've both got menus that just seem ridiculously high contrast. So when you're trying to take a photo in a dimly lit room, it just looks really weird. So apologies for the terrible photo. This is, if those of you who hadn't guessed, or indeed those who are listening, this is Taxi Driver. on 4K UHD disc and in DTS HD 5.1 master audio upmixed to Neural X. I did not select the stereo or the mono version. I went with the DTS HD track. Have you heard of this, Deej?
Yeah, it's the one where they talk about, like, they tell stories about people in the back of the taxi.
Yeah, it's got Danny DeVito in it. You know, is it?
Yeah,
you know, it's the series.
yeah. Judd Hirsch, is it Judd Hirsch? Yeah.
Oh yeah. So obviously the 1976 Stone Cold classic Taxi Driver. So it was. Now this film is a movie that I came to this movie very late. Obviously, I mean, I was born in 74, so I obviously didn't see it when it came out. And I don't think I saw this film until the 90s. It was just one of those movies that I had heard about, been told about, but never quite gravitated towards, should I say, until the 90s. And so I think I missed some of it. I think I missed the reverence with which this film is held. And so this is a movie that I really, really, really like, but I don't really love. But I accept and I get that it's a classic. I get that and I understand that. I'm more interested in kind of the movies that subsequently have come that evoke this film. I'm more interested in those, and I'll talk about those in a minute. In terms of obviously the movies, Travis Bickle, Robert De Niro. He is a loner. He drives a taxi, can't sleep, struggles with his loneliness, and various problems ensue as a result of that. Interestingly, looking this up on the IMDb afterwards, it talks about that he is just lonely. The Paul Schrader that wrote it, it's semi-autobiographical, apparently. He had a nervous breakdown when he was living in LA and was driving cabs and was driving them at night, and he would do it to ease his troubled mind. And yet I think this is very clearly a treatise about mental health and about sociopaths and about mental health issues, about bipolar personality disorders. And yet this is not what this, I mean, it may not have been the language back in 76, of course, but that's clearly what this film is about to me. And as I was watching it this time, and this must be the fourth or fifth time that I've seen it, and I've owned it on DVD and Blu-ray and, you know, this now in 4K. But I haven't seen it for a long time. And what I was most fascinated about is the recent movies that are clearly evoking it. I mean, Joker is the one that absolutely echoes every part of this. I mean, this, as I was watching, just thinking this could be a prequel to Joker. Well, I mean, in every way.
Yeah, that's what everybody said when Joker came out. You're like, taxi, and you're like, what the? It's, you know, like, oh, it's kind of copying. But it's not. It's the same idea, the mental health issue.
And there's someone who feels who's apart from society and is a loner and is poorly treated and is struggling with his place in the world and all this stuff. But also, I thought the Batman as well clearly is evoking this. The voiceover at the beginning talking about the animal, you know, crime as a creature, as something that is feral and alive. And I thought that was fascinating. So as I was watching this, I think, wow, that's what my mind was going towards, more to the more modern films that are harking back to this, directly evoking it. So anyway, that's as I was watching it. The film is still really, really good. As I said, I am slightly alienated from it because I haven't really grown up with it. But it's still very, very good. You can't take your eyes off the screen. I noticed details in this that I've never seen before, which we'll come on to in terms of the video quality. But things like, I didn't realize that his name is stitched into the back of his jacket. So it's a service jacket. And I'd never noticed that before. So you've got, you know, T. Bickle on it, which I'd never really noticed. And so I did enjoy the film. If you can enjoy this film, I'm not sure it's meant to be enjoyed, but but it's never less than riveting. You can't take your eyes off this, and De Niro is fantastic in this, and everyone already knows that, of course, but he really is, and it hasn't aged in that respect. If anything, I think it's becoming more contemporary. And obviously, I appreciate that you don't watch the news, so you won't know what's happened the last few days. But the idea of a loner who is obsessed with weaponry and has got an unhealthy obsession with politics, who then decides that he's going to embark on some sort of mission, is eerily close to what has happened this week, depending on what you believe. But yeah, so it's fascinating. Yeah.
It's fascinating, but I think
Mm.
a movie like this from what was this 70 what like
76.
76? Okay,
Yeah.
so a movie like this is made, it's made in 76, but when you're writing this and you're thinking of an idea, an inspiration for this, it's years and years in the
Mm.
making, right? So you're
Mm.
looking at the 60s, right? And we had a
Yeah.
lot of those situations. We had JFK, RFK, we had Martin Luther King. We had all of these things happen in the 60s, right? So they're making art out of it, inspired by it, and it's like this, the mental aspect, all of this stuff. You take something like this and like we're talking about it here now, and like you said, you referenced today, and that's what I'm like when people say, if you see the news, I don't mind the news. What I mind is people going, it's never been this bad, this is the worst they've ever seen, this is this and that. I'm like, no, this is the world. Go back 1,000 years, go back 10 years, go back 100 years. It's like we're people. We're not different now than we were then. It's just we're seeing it more, or guess what? You're the one noticing it now. You weren't around then, so you didn't know.
Yeah.
And it's like, but when you have art like this that's showing you, wait, how did they make this back then if this is new now? It's not. People's psyche and all of that, it's not new. It's like,
well, we're alive longer now, so we live long enough to see the cycles renew and you see it go round, but it is eerily contemporary, isn't it? It really is. So still very, very good film. Now the image quality on this. Now, Deej, have you got the 4K of this? Because of course it came out in the Columbia Classics a while back. Because now
I might actually have it in one of my classics. I might have the disc. I don't have it on Kaleidoscape yet.
Yeah,
but I might have the disc in one of my sets.
This has been released in the Steelbook on its own. I never bought any of the Columbia Classics because most of them I didn't really want. So I been waiting for this alongside Gandhi and stuff, which I had a while back. And so now when it begins, in terms of the image quality, it begins with some of the worst 4K video I've ever seen. And you get the Columbia logo that looks like you're watching it underwater with your eyes open without goggles. Okay, so it's all blurry and grainy. And when I put this on, and bear in mind it's 185, so of course fills the screen. And I was like, what have I done? What is this film? And the opening credits are dreadful, absolute horrendous, horrible. Genuinely some of the worst 4K I've seen. Now, of course, I know optical printing and everything. Fine.
Yeah.
Now, what happens though is when the credits end, it ends with him having his interview in the taxi office. Spoiler alert, anyone. The credits end with an interview in this taxi office as he's trying to get his job. And there is then a cut, right? So that you get the credits run through. Awful, 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 awful. He's then talking to his boss. Awful, awful, awful. It cuts away when the credits end. And then it's pristine, or at least as pristine as it can be. So it's like someone's just wiped the lens. And suddenly then it looks very good indeed for a movie from 76 shot in this very grungy kind of style. So there's loads more detail than I've seen before. As I say, the jacket was one thing, but lots and lots of more detail. Some of it you don't want to see, especially some of the things in the cinema. But there's lots more detail that you might not want to see. But it is there. The colors are really good. The black levels are very, very nice, bearing in mind the vintage of this film. So that's really, really nice. The audio is very good. It's not, obviously it's not going to compete with recent mixes. It's not meant to, but that score, that runs throughout it, lovely, kind of floats into the rear speakers and moves, and that's great. You never really get much of a sense of surround, even with Neural X engaged, but you do at least get the music kind of floating quite nicely. And let's face it, it's not a movie that's designed to be particularly sonically interesting, other than the music. I think the music's very deliberate, but everything else is kind of interchangeable. So it's a really good release. I'm so glad I've got it finally. It is a film that you have to have in your collection, I would say, because of its influence on other movies, and it's a good film in and of itself. So really recommended. Most people, I'm sure, will have already got this. This is me coming to it late. And sorry, John. John Thompson. Yes, the Steelbook is going in the attic. The disc is going into a slip cover that will send him into schisms of upset. But it's the reality. So well worth it, and worth a revisit, Deej, if you haven't seen the 4K version. It's worth seeing. And I don't know if Jen's a fan of this or whether she's seen it, but again, because of her psychological background, her psychology kind of stuff that she does, she'll have some interesting insight into this. It's clearly about post-traumatic stress because he's a Vietnam vet. It's clearly about mental health and bipolar and personality disorder, no matter what the filmmakers think. And so it's interesting to see it through a modern lens, as it were. So really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed it. So what have I missed from the chat then? Because again,
I got this one from Jordan and saying Taxi Driver feels more relevant nowadays. Same can be said with Falling Down starring Michael Douglas. And that gets to my point of what I was saying is like, is it more relevant now when Taxi Driver was made in the 70s, Falling Down was made in the 80s? It's like, how can something be more relevant than the time it was made in? I think it's more that we didn't, at our age, Jordan, we weren't paying attention in the 70s and 80s to the details that led to Taxi Driver and Falling Down. And today we're older, wiser, and watching and go, hey, this is just like that. It's like, I don't think it's more relevant. I think, like you said, it's like, it's just as relevant. And it's amazing when pieces, when things like this are like literally timeless. Because people are timeless. That's who we are. We're not different. We haven't learned from our mistakes.
So we're doomed to repeat them.
Exactly.
Quite. I agree. Falling Down is very good. I've got the Blu-ray of that. I've got that the book version of that. And I must rewatch that again. I've seen that so many times, but I find that film troubling in certain respects. Though
of course.
I don't like how they lionize him. I have to say, I don't ever feel empathy with defense in that. And I appreciate I may be on my own, and it's a bit weird to hear a defense lawyer say that. But I don't a defense lawyer say that. But I have issues with Falling Down. It's a fascinating film, but I have real issues with that.
So
there we go. But very cool. Really good release.
I'm gonna have to check that one out. Let's see. What do I want to do? Another. Do we got time? Yeah, we'll do a quick. All right, let's actually I'll do this one now because we might run out of time, and I'll save my other clip because for later if we have time at the end. Because I know you've got.
Sorry, mate. Did I go on a bit there? Sorry.
No. Did we go on a bit? We talked about allergies today, Steve. We didn't go on a bit. No, we're having fun. We're having fun.
Is that what I think it is? I think
it is. Yeah, there it is. So oh my God. So hang on a second. Let me Where did it go? Boom, boom. Did it? There we go. All right.
So you quite literally might ruffle feathers.
Yes. Nice segue. Sorry about the little delay there, but here we go.
Yeah. Ooh.
All right. So we're talking about The Crow from 2024. It 4K HDR, does have Dolby Vision on Kaleidoscape, but I don't have that current ability yet, so I will be revisiting this. And Dolby Atmos, Bill Skarsgård starring, and Danny Houston. He's really good. I like him and everything. Do you know the I don't know the director, Rupert
Sanders?
It's
a strange one.
Rupert Sanders. I didn't know who I don't know.
Poison Chalice a little bit on this, I think.
He did Ghost in the Shell, or he's in Ghost in the Shell.
Which I like.
The Scarlett Johansson one.
I like that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Read all the reviews, dropped on Kaleidoscape Friday, super early, because the reviews were not very good. And people are not enjoying this movie at all. And I was like, but I love The Crow from, was it 94, I think, 94.
Yeah.
And love that movie. And, who doesn't? It became a cult fight. I don't think it was going to be that good, but then, we all know about that. Okay. So this one comes out. I saw the trailer for it months and months ago, super excited, hoping that we would get the more violent, because the comic is more violent, hoping to get it more accurate to the comic, the violence and everything. And it's not. It's not as accurate to the comic that I would have wanted, but it is violent. It is graphic. It is Steve. The entire time, I'm like, if Steve doesn't like this movie, I don't know what Steve likes. Maybe I don't. It's got everything. So,
Oh, okay.
spoilers. We all know the original Crow, right? So he can get injured, but then he heals, right? Like Logan or Deadpool, something like that. Both Logan and the Deadpools are rated R. This is rated R. This is a horror love story. It is graphic. It is bloody. Tons of blood. It is, I mean, he's the Crow. He can come back. This is the Evil Dead Rise I wanted. He's dead. He rises and he keeps on going. The injuries that they give him, the things that go on in this, and the healing. I don't know what's worse, the injury that he gets, or they show the graphicness of him healing. You're going. I really think you're going to love that part of it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I love the love story about it. It delves deeper into the Eric and Shelley relationship, whereas the original, it was you just knew. And to be fair to the original, we didn't even care how we just knew they were getting married right at the beginning, and you're like, boom, they're dead. Now the rest of the movie. Spoilers, that's in the opening scene. So this one, it actually gets into their background, why, blah, blah, blah. It fleshes out, if you will, a lot more of the love story part, creates a different supernatural world for this to be happening. Yeah, Evil Dead Rises was so much better.
Yeah, go Fred. Yeah, Fred,
exactly.
We're on the same page, man.
But I'm not saying this is an Academy Award winner. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying I don't think it's as bad as what everybody's reading. I don't think it's as bad. I mean, there are some people that are saying similar to what I'm saying, but it's just getting overshadowed by crap. This is, anti-entertainment, stuff like that. So I don't think it's that at all. I was very entertained. I love the love story. There's a lot in that part of it that pulls you in. And then by the end of it, you're like, wow, that was really good. Actually left me thinking they could go on from here. They could make another one. I doubt they will, because this thing did so crappy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The home theater part, this is, I mean, the HDR, it's dark. This whole movie is dark, but the details in the dark, inside the wounds, there's not a lot of light in there, but you're seeing everything. You're seeing the injuries, you're seeing the cuts, the explosions, this, that, the other. There's so much detail, the highlights, the lowlights, everything in it. And then I want to go back and watch it again, but then like the hues that are going over, I want to really analyze this, because I thought it was beautiful for a horror movie. I love every scene, and the detail was so good that I was flinching. I'm like, whoa, all right, I know what's coming here. I know what weapon he's using, and I know what they're going to do with it. And then either they did that or they did something different, but you go, you'd flinch away. Really, really good. I wouldn't say it's reference level detail or HDR, but it's damn close. The audio, very, very similar. Very similar. I wouldn't say I would almost say this is reference. There is so much to it. It is loud. The music in it, the music is different than the original movie. Obviously, they're not using the same songs, but it's the same tone. And it's the same, like you could feel almost like, oh, is it? Nope, it's not. It's a different song. It's a different, and they're, evoking the same emotion and everything. But the sound is really good. The way they move it around the room, the way they move the action, the gunshots. This is like, so when I thought of this earlier when when we watch John Wick, and it's like in the John Wick movies, he has the suits, right? And that's supposed to give us that, that ground us. Like, okay, if you can believe the suits are bulletproof, then he can walk up to people and they can shoot him, and he just goes like this and he protects himself. Yeah. This is literally the entire movie, not the entire movie, I'm sorry. Half of the movie is like John Wick, but he has no suit, but he's supernatural. So just go from there. And then the motions and the actions that he takes when he's being injured from whatever weapon, between the sound and it's just like take a gunshot, right? I'm not spoiling anything. He's going to get shot, everybody. the reaction he makes and the sound in your room, whether it's a pistol, whether it's a shotgun, and he just goes, it's jarring because your room goes alive, and then you see him go like this, go shake, like boom. But he doesn't get just one shot. He just keeps on going. And it's, again, this goes to the detail in the picture, and then also with the sound and how I found myself pulled into the movie where I'm seeing and hearing people like, this is crap, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, are you watching it on your iPhone? Are you not, are you not getting everything that the movie has to offer? Because I thought the story was good enough to keep me going, and I was entertained. Maybe some of the acting isn't perfect, and maybe, people in the business, like John Thompson tell me, well, they should have written this different. I'm not that bright. I just have fun with it, and it's like maybe the flow of the movie and from, the first, chapter to this and that. And I'm like, no. And it's like, no, I'm here for a good time. And it's based off a comic, people, and it's supernatural. So I so much fun with it. I can't recommend it enough, but at the same time, I think the original does it a disservice because I think a lot of people see the original and they want something close to this. And if it's not, they think it's not as good. When this is different from the original, it's a different story. It's a different take. I look at this like if the original never existed, I think there would be a lot more positivity towards this movie if the original never existed, right? Like, and I've said publicly, if if Brandon doesn't die in the original, like literally, what does that do to the movie? Do we have that same? And I hate to say that, but it's true because you can never look at that movie without that lens. It's like it brought a lot of people to the movie. Like, oh my God, they're still putting it out, and this is what happened. Oh my, and that happened to his father, and so there was a mystique around this movie before that movie ever came out, right? And that led to the cult following. But it is a great movie, but at the same time, you can't compare it. This is a different take, and let it stand on its own merits. And that's what I really, really enjoyed it. Really, in the home theater part, I think is worth to have in your collection. It's from the opening scene, and it's loud. You're like, here we go. It's good.
Well, DJ, I have to say, this was one I was not going to bother with because, I like the original. We've talked about it before. I don't love it. I like it. I've got the 4K disc, but I would have skipped this. But now you tell me that, then yeah, I will definitely give it a go.
You might not like it, but if you're going to get picked,
but it's worth seeing. Based on what you said, it's worth at least seeing. Yeah. Yeah.
What did Jordan say?
I'd heard nothing but bad stuff about this, so I was prepared to skip it.
Yeah.
And I've seen some scenes. I know there is a screener that I can get my hands on, so I might try and get hold of that and give that a watch. But the reviews had been so bad, and the clips I'd seen were so, obviously out of context, but didn't really excite me. So I just thought, well, it's okay. I don't need to see that. But now you've said that, then I will definitely check it out.
Yeah.
Jordan says though there's no UK physical release announced for The Crow 2024 yet. So that's interesting. But I as I said, I know there is a screener available because I got offered it, and I was like, I don't need to, but now I do. So I will try and check that out very soon. All right. I am color me intrigued.
Yeah. And, it's a flat out horror movie. It is a horror movie in a way that, it's got tons of gore, tons of blood. They don't skimp on the blood at all, and they don't shy away. Maybe a couple of scenes where you'd be like, oh wow, they didn't show that. They should have showed the motion before the injury. But most of it is very, very, very graphic. And I know you like that part. So for a horror movie, and then it is based on, the Eric Shelley thing is the love story, and they really delve into that. And so it's
and TSG Spartan says it's on Amazon to rent. So in the UK, so okay, well that's fair enough. I will, But as I said, I know I can get a digital screener of this, so I will, I will check it out. Now, like I said, DJ, I wouldn't have done, but now that has definitely piqued my interest. So I will, I will put that on my list.
If it's even like if you're even halfway intrigued with just watching the movie on like a screener or on on a stream. then I would say grab the 4K with Atmos when you can, because I think
Yeah.
that elevates it for sure. It's,
Yeah,
you know, if unless you watch it on the screener and you're like, oh my God, DJ, this is crap.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Well, this is what I've got access to much more quickly, though. So it's so you know what I'm like. I I want to see them as soon as possible. So if that's the only way I can get hold of it, and from what Jordan's saying initially, it is, and then I want to see it, and then that'll tell me whether I need to then do that. But yeah, which is more than I would have done before. So yeah, I will definitely do that, and we'll check back.
All righty. So yeah. All right. That was it for the Crow. Let's see. What do you have? The last one? You want this one?
Yeah. Ooh,
oh
yeah.
Here we go. We'll wrap up with this. Everybody's like, what?
Film.
Caligula. No.
Evil Dead Rise. No. All right. So this then is, again, apologies for the terrible picture. Again, it's a very, very high contrast menu. And I tried several occasions, to several different ways to get this photo, and it just didn't work. So I just gave up at the end and grabbed that. So this is the 2013 Paul Greengrass directed, Tom Hanks starring Captain Phillips, which has had a 4K release for the first time recently. In fact, it came out while I was away, and when I got back on Saturday, I immediately ordered it from Amazon, and it was here the next day, and I watched it straight away. Now I know you've seen it, Deej, because I think we've talked about this before, but albeit not the 4K version, and I don't think it's ever been reviewed on the show, as it were, or spoken about. But so this is, and I hadn't seen it for a long time. I had the Blu-ray.
Yeah,
I saw it in the cinema. I've seen the Blu-ray, but I've not seen it in Cinema George. It's been a long time since I last sat down and watched it. So this is in 4K UHD and in Dolby Atmos, and a new version. Oh yeah, DJ. Oh,
I didn't realize I didn't own it yet. So
is it on Kaleidoscape?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's but it's 4K HDR10, but only DTS Master Audio. But it is so good. It is. It is. Even that. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Well, let me whet your appetite with the Dolby Atmos in a minute, Deej. So anyway, so the movie, obviously, true story of the 2009 piracy attempt on the Maersk, Alabama ship just off the coast of Somalia, which was taken by pirates, and the captain was taken hostage.
Spoilers.
Things happened. Well, it's kind of in the trailer. yeah. If you don't know, spoiler from 2009,
exactly.
And the Titanic sank.
About the revolution.
Sorry. Yeah. The Americans won the Revolutionary War. The Titanic sank, and things didn't go well on 9/11. Anyway, so
didn't go well. That's a good way to put it.
Spoiler alert.
A bad day.
It was a bad day. It was. So this is the story of that, directed by Paul Greengrass, and we'll come back to him in a minute. The thing is, I always liked this film in as much as I respected the story that it was telling and the very, very challenging situation. I'd actually seen the documentary about this before this movie came out. So I'd seen that. So I did know how it unfolded, but that didn't take away from the movie. And I always enjoyed the film and thought it was good. However, I've never seen the movie like this. And I would say, Deej, this is like seeing the movie for the very first time. Watching this in Cinema George, in 4K, in Dolby Atmos, is a revelation. This film is a new movie, and there are entire sequences in this that I had forgotten, and the movie now is like nail-biting from start to finish. This film, in this format, in this presentation, is frankly like seeing it for the first time. This is a totally different experience, and I've heard it's all about the experiences.
It's somewhere. I don't know.
Someone put it on the back of a baseball cap.
Oh,
actually, and on the back of a drinks thing as well. I seem to recall.
Exactly.
So now this genuinely is a fresh experience, and it was fantastic. And I
glad I
don't say that like that. Well, Well, this is it. You peaked too soon now. I think with your bike.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say. So it is
Always right on
absolutely
time.
fantastic. Yeah, oh yeah. It's really, really, really good. And I
That
I
oh yeah,
I
it was
was
creepy.
like, yeah, yeah, well, yeah.
You're
I
like,
was
oh
blown.
yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah. But I was
I gotta make
blown
a
away
song
by
out
this
of
thing.
that.
I was blown away by this, absolutely blown away. And this film needs to be seen in this format and in this presentation because I don't think you've seen it until you see it like this.
Hmm.
It is fantastic from start to finish. So that's the
Is Tom
film.
Hanks in this version?
I sincerely hope so.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's a whole new
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
It's
Well,
like recast.
well, yeah, I was so engaged with it, and again, I have to
Yeah.
say, it is possible. All right, a caveat: this was the first film I saw after 2 weeks out of Cinema George,
Oh,
so it
there
is
we go.
possible that
Yeah. Yeah.
this is a different thing. But I don't think it was because
Yeah.
it was so good that I don't think some of that might be true, but it can't
Yeah.
account for how good this was. It
Right.
really is very, very good. The only thing I would say, it is Paul Greengrass. Now, Paul Greengrass is famous for filming everything handheld, and
Mm.
if you suffer from motion sickness, and if
Yeah.
you've got a big screen, you might want to take some Dramamine before you watch this, because there is a lot of shaky cam in this. It is no
Right.
getting away from it. And I don't suffer from motion sickness, and even
Does
I
he
once
know
or
the
twice
Steadicam
started.
was invented?
Yeah, even I started to feel a little queasy once or twice with this
Yeah.
because it's very, very, in your face, and it's 185, so of course, screen film.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Travis doesn't
that's
like that.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, quite. Yeah, he's no fan, is he? So
No.
it's so very, very good film. Now the video, it's a new remaster, as I understand it. I don't think it's a 4K original camera negative remaster. I don't think. If it is, I didn't see that on the packaging, but it looks for this film very good indeed. I mean, right from the beginning, you see a shot in the car of Tom Hanks's face from the side, and every pock mark, every minute mark and pore on his head and face is clearly visible. It then switches to Somalia, which they're shooting in a supposed to be grungy and down and dirty, so it does get very grainy there. But then it goes back to much cleaner shots, and at times it looks really, really good. The lifeboat, which is orange, glows. The blue of the water, all that stuff looks great. So it looks very, very good for this film. And of course, most of the ending is shot at night. So of course, and it looks like it was shot at night. I don't think they did day for night. So it is in darkness, but that all resolves really, really well in 4K, again, HDR and all the rest of it. So it looks really good. The reason though to buy this is not just how good the film is. It's very good. How good it looks, it's very good. The Atmos audio on this is reference.
Ooh.
And that is not something I expected from a movie from 2009 necessarily. It is, 2013. Forgive me, 2013.
Yeah.
It was in 2009.
Yeah. It was based off of
They filmed it live.
Yeah.
What's Tom Hanks doing here?
Just take the footage.
And cut.
Yeah, there we go.
Technigate.
There we go.
It is reference, and it's reference from the very beginning right the way through. So and it begins very shortly after it starts with Tom Hanks pulling up outside of an airport, and there's a plane that takes off. You never see the plane. It's all audio only, and it goes up and it goes right over your head straight away. And immediately I was thinking, okay, this is interesting. And whilst that's going on, you've got all traffic noises and cars all zipping around. You then go to the ship. You've got the pirates trying to take the ship and the skiff that they're on. I mean, talk about panning heaven, Deej. As you've got so the boat's going quickly, creating a wake to make the skiffs struggle to keep up with them. And so the camera is struggling to keep up with the skiff and is deliberately letting the skiff move across the soundstage. So what happens is you get the spray of the water come up and over and into the rear left. And then as the skiff comes across the front of the soundstage and the camera can't keep up, it pans right across the room and it's jumping as it goes. And it is awesome. It really is. You feel like you are right there. So you then get that, then you get the gunshots and they're shooting. Now they're AKs, so they sound a bit, a bit tinny, but they're really, really good.
Yeah.
So that all bounces around the sound stage. And when they're in the ship, the engine noises, the tannoy, the PA system, all
Mhm.
of that's in the overhead speakers. Everything is moving. This is a reference audio track and an Atmos track in terms of how to redo a track, because this would not have obviously been mixed in Atmos initially. But like Twister, from what you said, I still haven't heard that remix, but from what you said about it, this looks like it's had a fresh audio remaster.
Ooh.
It sounds fantastic. It really does. And I'm hoping, Deej, that either Kaleidoscape will update this to
Yeah.
Atmos, or that the upmixing is just as good and it does the trick and it's fine.
Well,
But it's
yeah.
honestly
That's what
fantastic.
I've done a lot of those because since I've gotten especially when I first got it, like the Bourne series, I think those are in DTSX, but then on Kaleidoscape, they're in Master Audio in 4K
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
And I did like, I've referenced this before, and it's like the chase scene in Bourne Identity. I prefer the DTS Master Audio over the X because the X has the extra bass pushed into it. And it takes the clarity of the music and the car noises, all in that chase scene. It is still, I mean, both of them are fantastic, but I felt like the DTS Master Audio version was cleaner. It felt cleaner to me. Okay. People, you have to keep in mind that whatever's on Kaleidoscape is based off of what the studio gives them. Right.
Yeah.
So are they putting like this on a disc but when they send it to Kaleidoscape, it's like, here's the master track, or this is like, why would they give it anything less? And when we're all typically using up converting. I haven't found one that I was like, oh my God, that's ridiculously different yet. Because if it really does, like when we look at the ones that do get a true Atmos track out of the gate, you get that on Kaleidoscape. But movies like this that get the up conversion, you don't necessarily get it. Now to your point, like if it truly is a new track, the studio will send that along to Kaleidoscape.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with what was the last one that we talked about? Because I did get RoboCop didn't get it. RoboCop didn't have it. They didn't have Atmos on either one.
No.
What was the movie? I forget what it was, but it eventually did make its way to Kaleidoscape, even though it was already in 4K HDR. So, yeah, it'll be interesting, but it makes me like, now I want to hear the difference. I want to do some A/B and
yeah. Well, I would wait. I'd wait to see it. Wait and see if it does come, because this track is awesome, and I don't say that lightly. It really is good. It's almost too good. It's like it's almost now a mismatch between the movie and the track. It is cutting edge. It really is good. And I had an absolute blast with this, and way more than I thought I would. I was blown away by it. It really is good. And so it just elevates this film and makes it nail biting from start to finish. It's really, really good. And one of the other things about it is, of course, bearing in mind the production audio and the kind of the accents that some of the actors are using. I mean, the Somali actors are Somali in real life. And so they're talking a very heavily accented thing. None of that is unintelligible. You never lose that dialogue. And when the camera's bouncing around as it is, and it's been done therefore with some sort of, to try to give it some realness, that would be something that would be very easy to lose, but it never happens. It's always clear. It's very, very good indeed. So I highly recommend it. I really do. This was a very pleasant surprise. And again, it's another steelbook. Sorry, John. It's going in the attic. The disc is staying down, but it's very, very good. This should be at the top of people's lists if you're looking for a new audio track to demo, because this is one of those, again, you could bring someone in at any time and go, right, listen to this. And I think they'll all be looking around the room and go, am I now on a ship? Am I now, have I been transported? What's going on? It's really, really good. So yeah, highly recommended.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, maybe I'll even watch it. No, I got a game tonight, but I might have a little time. I'll be able to get it in. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do I want to do?
I do want to know what you think of it. I mean, I would say wait to see if the Atmos track drops, because it would be very interesting to see how you get on with it. But yeah, it's so good, really good. And again, in terms of remaster of an old track, I think it's reference. Yeah,
Nice.
very,
All
very
right.
good indeed.
All right. We are at 7. Do you got a minute? I can do a quick one.
If it's a quick one, DJ, because I have got an early start.
Okay. Very
Right.
quick.
Oh, it's worth it for this. Okay.
Yeah, there you go,
Right.
buddy. There you go. Let me give, that's why it'll be quick, because here it is.
Mm.
We did this last week, Rebel Ridge, on Netflix, original Rebel Ridge. It was the title of the show, of the audio only podcast, with, as you said, Aaron Pierre.
Yeah,
Is that it?
Aaron
Yeah.
Pierre. Yep,
And
that's him.
Don Johnson, which you see on the screen here if you're watching on YouTube. Yeah, the movie itself, it's awesome.
Was I right?
Huh? Yeah, you were right.
I said you'd
yeah.
love it.
Oh yeah. The one thing I forget, what's the scene you thought of me? I know I had a couple of
The
them.
sheriff, the confrontation with the sheriff,
The
where
first one.
where he's revealed to be not who you think he is.
Yes.
And you then get the grappling and the all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah, I love that. And it's like, yes, absolutely. Love that whole entire interaction. And then the rest of the movie, that very faithful to the moves, very faithful to and how he handled people and the closing the gaps and stepping. It's just, and and you even heard the cop in the background, like, back away, back away.
Yeah.
It's like,
Don't get too close.
Yeah, Don Johnson's like, what? Like, uh-oh. And he just, and you saw how he closed the gap, just stood even, because it was just awesome. You're right. Absolutely loved that scene. There were a bunch of lines in there too, but the home theater experience I thought was very, very good. I didn't like the picture as much. I thought the black levels weren't deep enough at all, especially for a Netflix movie. It wasn't there's a lot of dark scenes, especially in the second half of the movie, that were very, very grayed out, right? Because and again, it gets into what we were saying earlier, because the brighter parts of the scene just didn't pop enough to, it was very, very grayed out. So much so that I'm watching it going, is my bulb going? Is something wrong? And then I'd go to, I literally went to Rings of Power on Amazon, which we've said in the past, Amazon's not very good with their HDR, but no, it's pops. And it was the black levels there were dead on. So compared stream to stream, you had that. So I wasn't crazy. It didn't take away from the movie, but I was just because the movie is that good. And it is like a Jack Reacher in a completely different way, but it is the Jack Reacher scenario, stranger comes to town, boom, boom, boom. It is, really good. Sad movie, but good movie. I mean,
it doesn't quite end how you might think it would, and it's all a bit kind of more things happen than you would expect. But the confrontation with the sheriff. I mean, and by the way, I was kicking myself afterwards because someone on I think it was Stephen King, in fact, who said on Twitter, it's the thinking man's Rambo.
Yeah,
and it is. It's First Blood. This is First Blood. How I missed that this is First Blood, I didn't mention that it was First Blood. I do not know, but I should have done. Because that's exactly what this is. And the confrontation with the sheriff is as close to why you're pushing me, I've done anything to you, as it would be with First Blood. And it's even a small town.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I wanted the initial confrontation that started the movie. I wanted just one person to go, high-speed chase? And when you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. Who said, I chased you for miles? Why? You know what I mean? Because you know what the scene was. You know the chase. And
mode of transport.
Yeah, exactly. What? It's so railroaded, but it was awful. But it just made the movie that much better, and it told that story, set the tone, everything, anything you want to call it. But and I loved there was a line in there not less lethal, and they use it right. It's a less lethal use of force. And that's what I thought was really good. Is there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of gunshots, but as you see the movie play out, and nope, it's not what you think. And that one particular scene towards the end when he does, and you're like, oh, cool. But the gunshot there, the shotgun, still a great sound. Still great sound in the room. The sound in this, the Atmos was really, really good. So I know we talked about it last week, but I just wanted to mention that. I did see it. Sound is definitely worth checking out. Picture, not so much, but it doesn't take away from the story and the sound and everything. So,
No,
So
good.
yeah,
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you saw it. Yeah, the as I say, the sheriff, when the sheriff, we know something's coming because we've
yeah,
seen movies like this before,
oh
and
yeah,
but the sheriff doesn't, and how that interplays, and then the demonstration of
yeah,
what he can do is just so well done and so non-Hollywood.
yeah,
It was just very, very cool. So yeah, it's yeah, great. Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. Good,
yeah.
good, good,
And
good.
I love the message of that part too.
Mm,
Don't ever underestimate anybody,
yeah,
ever. And they're like,
yeah,
yeah,
and know your
so.
acronyms.
Yeah. Oh, I love those. I love those throughout. And it's like, oh, I can't wait for
Mm.
another one.
Yeah,
Even when
it's
he
like
was in the middle of that one, you're like, oh, this is gonna get good.
yeah, it shows that someone's done some research, haven't they?
Yeah.
Someone's
Yeah.
been someone's spent a couple of weeks on the on a marine base somewhere.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. So good. So
Cool.
all right. That will do it. We gotta get Steve to bed. I got a hockey game to get to.
Mm.
It's just,
Life.
it flew by again.
It did.
Again.
It did. It did. It did.
Doesn't
It
it?
did.
So thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to everybody on Patreon. Thank you, everybody, for everything. It's like keeping us going. The messages, I'm getting emails. I got to get back to these Takeover Tuesdays. But yeah, the messages are awesome. And I wanted to mention one earlier, but I forget. I got to go look at it and we're running out of time. So maybe next week we won't talk so much about allergies. But where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
So,
Hey.
all right. Yeah. And hopefully John's back, but if he's not, it means he's got a new job. So good for him. So we're pulling for you to have the job, but we're pulling for you to have a job and be able to do this. But we'll take your happiness over our happiness. So good luck, buddy. And everybody have a great week. We'll see you next time. You know what you got to do.
Go push play.
What he said.
That is right.
Hey, Fred.
This has been a Hey Fred production with theme music by Jeff Bernhardt and Throne Vault Productions.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
Sorted.
brother. We're still on.